Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. It's good to be back here after sort of a 2-week sort of hiatus with the All-Star break and the All-Star week itself, and then this 10-game homestand. It's been a long past 2 weeks. It's been a long past 2 weeks, but it's good to see you here again. Here for another week of Seattle sports. I mean, the things have kind of slowed down in terms of the totality of everything. I mean, the Seahawks are kind of in the off season. They did unleash their throwback jerseys though, which look incredible. And they've got a whole little cool installation down at the Pro Shop at Lumen Field. I digress. The Mariners are in a very interesting place right now, and we'll certainly get to that first. The Sounders, it's a sore subject in a lot of ways. The Storm, also a sore subject, as they're on a 9-game losing streak. The Kraken got a big deal done. The Reign are still sort of in their World Cup break. They'll get back to action this upcoming week, but the city of Seattle in summer continues to roll on. It's actually kind of cold today. It was a little bit rainy, so I've been getting my tan's been coming back in, but the farmer's tan you'd see on me is horrible. So we're wearing a hoodie, which is a good thing. Anyway, we'll move straight into the Mariners segment of the show here, as again, the Seahawks really hasn't much been going on outside of the throwback jerseys, the 90s themed throwback jerseys that they'll be wearing on October 29th, which is week 8 against the Cleveland Browns here in Seattle. Our Mariners, though, it continued a 10-game homestand that started right after the All-Star break, 2 days, in fact, after All-Star week ended here in Seattle. So T-Mobile Park has been busy for the past 2 weeks. We'll get into it here with a 4-game series against the Minnesota Twins. On the 17th, the Mariners would win that game to open up the series 7-6. We'll put up our photo of the game here by our photographer, Brian Saldana. Player of the game number 1, left fielder Jared Kelenic. Kelenic, 2 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs on the day. And then our second player of the game, who is pictured in our photo of the game here, third baseman Eugenio Suarez. Eugenio, 2 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs. Hits a homer that day. We'll continue with the homers here as we go back to it. July 18th versus the Twins in the second game of the series. Not so good. The Mariners would lose that one 3-10. Our player of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez, 1 hit, 1 run, and 2 RBIs. Gino hits another homer on that day. But our photo here, a photo of the game by Chris Liu, kind of encapsulates how that game went. I mean, the 3 runs is fine, but you give up 10. A really big struggle there, and Teoscar Hernandez kind of embodies the disappointment after that loss there. In Game 3 of the series, as the Mariners were trying to bounce back, they were unable to do so, losing this one 3-6. On July 19th. Our player of the game, once again, third baseman Eugenio Suarez, 1 hit, 1 run, and 2 RBIs on the day. 3 homers in 3 games there for Gino. Our photo of the game here is relief pitcher Devin Sweet. And now you're going to want to remember Sweet's name when we get to the team-related news side of things and we discuss how Devin Sweet made his MLB debut that day. So just remember the name Devin Sweet. So the Mariners would go down 2-1 in that series, looking to tie things up in the 4th and final game of it on July 20th, which is a day game. They would be able to do so in a 5-0 shutout win over the Twins, mostly led by starting pitcher George Kirby, who is our photo of the game here by Brian Saldana. Kirby would not our listed player of the game here, but he essentially that win doesn't happen like that without him. Our listed player of the game, right fielder Teoscar Hernandez, 2 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs on the day. But Kirby had a really excellent outing there in this one. We'll get to it here for you so I can tell you why. And, since he's our photo of the game here, it makes perfect sense. But Kirby goes 7 innings, 4 hits allowed, and no runs allowed, no walks, and 10 strikeouts, doing all of that on 99 pitches. I mean, yeah, just an absolute masterclass by George Kirby there. So he split the series against the Twins. Disappointing. Disappointing is a word you could use. They do lead the AL Central, but that division, I think all of that division is just barely at or under 500. So it's not exactly like a competitive hotbed there in the Central Division of the American League. That would lead us into a 3-game set to round out the homestand and take place over the course of the weekend when the Toronto Blue Jays come to town. And, if you've been in this city or you're a Mariners fan, you know how that series looks when Toronto and essentially all of Canada come down to watch the Blue Jays play here in Seattle. July 21st, the opening game of that series on Friday night. The Mariners had their City Connect jerseys on. They would win that one 3-2 in a really tight back and forth sort of battle. Our player of the game and our photo of the game here by Brian Saldana captures it really well. Is right fielder Teoscar Hernandez. Teo, 3 hits on the day and 1 RBI. That RBI would be on a walk-off base hit in the bottom of the 9th that goes over the right fielder's head and off the wall to score the game-winning run here. And you can see that photo really captures how Teo is feeling after that. It's great to see. That one was a lot of fun, big game energy. The Mariners pick up their 2nd win in the City Connect jerseys. We go over here to the 2nd game of the series, July 26th versus the Blue Jays. The first of 2 back-to-back kind of ruins it. 2 consecutive day games. The Mariners would win that one in a high-scoring affair, 9-8. Our player of the game catcher Cal Raleigh, 2 hits, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs on the day. A multi-homer day in 6 career games against the Blue Jays. To that point, Cal Raleigh had hit 6 homers against Toronto. So it kind of makes the comments by manager John Schneider for the Blue Jays a little silly when he said that it's not hard to pitch to Cal Raleigh. And you can see in this photo of the game here by Liv Lyons, Cal's getting doused in the water bucket by Ty France. We go here to the final game of the series. The Mariners did look to get the sweep over Toronto, which would be a hard feat in and of itself. They would be unable to do so, losing that one on July 23rd, 3-4. Our player of the game, designated hitter Mike Ford. Fordo, 1 hit, 1 run, and 2 RBIs. A solo shot hits the Hit It Here Cafe and represents 2 of the 3 runs that the Mariners collect on this day. It's the 2nd time this past week that Ford has hit the Hit It Here Cafe with a home run. You can see our photo of the game here by Sage Zepeto. Did I skip? Oh, no, I talked about Devin Sweet. You can see Brian Wu here kind of looking up after one of his innings. So we'll get in before we get into the general discussion about those past 7 games. We'll look here at our player of the week. I went with JP, led the team over the past 7 games in batting average. So, this is the last 6 games. 7 hits, 3 runs, 1 double, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, a 304 batting average, a 360 on base percentage, only a 348 slugging, but typically we don't know JP for his slugging ability, to create a 708 OPS. Mike Ford had a great OPS, higher than JP, and so did Gino, but JP led the team in batting average, so I just figured that looked better, and kind of was better, arguably, for what Seattle needs with their hitting struggles. So we're back here again. I know the last few episodes that we have had, even before the 2-week hiatus, talk heavily about the Mariners hitting. And that still remains the case as we look here. You know, we go back through the series, 7-6 win over the Twins. Good. 3-10 loss. The pitching wasn't there, but even the offense wasn't there. And that July 19th game against the Twins, 3 runs, they had the opportunity to kind of do something there in the bottom of the 9th, unable to do so. The last game of the series against the Twins, 5-0. Sure. Even the series opener against the Blue Jays, where you just get 3 runs, not so great. Game 2 against the Blue Jays, big. I mean, they had a 3-homer 3rd inning in this game on the 22nd, where Cal Raleigh, Dylan Moore went back-to-back, and then a few batters later, Julio hit a solo homer. So that was sure. But again, you don't want to be dependent on the long ball. So, I mean, this is a very interesting past homestand for the Mariners. They go 5-5 over the past 10 games in that homestand. They take the series win over the Blue Jays, but considering the sort of ground that the Mariners need to make up if they want to put themselves back in a playoff position, you might have needed to sweep them. And, you know, the Mariners left 9 runners on base. Was it 9? Yep, 9 runners on base in that series finale to the Blue Jays. Just can't drive people in. And I mean, even to a point, you know, the Mariners did have in the 8th, they had some opportunity there. No, that's in the 9th. They had 2 runners on as Dylan Moore got hit by a pitch and Colton Wong walked. JP Crawford, this one was interesting. This is kind of what I was getting to. JP laid down a sacrifice bunt to move both Moore and Wong over, but JP Crawford has been pretty good in high leverage situations for the Mariners. So it was kind of puzzling to not see him swing the bat there. He's got a slash line of 318, 405, and 476 in those high leverage situations. 318 in high leverage is excellent. So I don't know why either he decided, I don't think he would have decided to drop the bunt down, or he was told to lay down the bunt. I would rather just trust JP to swing the bat in that situation. And then Julio struck out right after him to put 2 outs on. Julio's got a 153 batting average and a 36.3% K rate in the 9th inning this season, which is not great. Actually really bad. So yeah, that was a little confusing. Without the context of where you're at in the playoff race, I would normally be happy with just the series win. Knowing that you were that close to getting the sweep, frustrating, yes, but this is a Toronto team that's good. You know, they've got a lot of talent offensively, and you were able to get after their pitchers to an extent. But if we look at the wild card race here, the 3 teams that currently sit in the wild card are the Rays, the Astros, who you're trying to fight for in the division for the second second spot in the division, little in the second wild card, and then the Blue Jays, this Blue Jays team that you just played. So I mean, you can kind of understand why that was so important. Then you've got ground to make up in front of you, because the Red Sox and the Yankees also sit in front of you for those wild card spots. They're both 2 games behind, and the Angels are 4 games out of that spot. And because you lost yesterday, you dropped down a peg for them, and now you're in 4th in the division. So you can see you can't really afford to have these games that are just close, and you just get close enough, but you can't get over the hump. Time's running out. The trade deadline is on August 1st. Now, it's really going to – we looked at it in an article that we did in terms of how difficult this trade deadline is going to be, because the Mariners don't necessarily have a lot of trade-ready prospects to move. Emerson Hancock, sticks out amongst the current farm system, but a lot of the farm system that the Mariners have right now, because of the trades that they made for Eugenio and Winker at the time, as well as Luis Castillo, they shipped out a bunch of your guys that were going to be ready for a potential trade package. You're trying to grow guys, like Gabby Gonzalez, like Cole Young, like Harry Ford, who are in your farm system right now and are in the top 100. You've got those young pitchers in Bryce Miller and Brian Wu too, but do you really want to move those pitchers this season when you're already hurting for starting pitching depth? Probably not. And then even besides that, obviously people have their respective feelings about different Mariners in the starting lineup, but what position are you upgrading? Where are you going to upgrade? First of all, I mean, second base sticks out, obviously, but and I would like a quote unquote better backup catcher, but where are you going to get that? And what are you going to give up? So you've got to look at those aspects. Where are you going to look at, and what are you going to give up? What are you willing to give up? Because the Mariners front office has talked often about how they don't want to just trade for a rental for the season. They want to be able to make a trade that's going to make them better for the next few years, let alone including this year. So the trade deadline is not that simple to just go and make a move. It's really not. I know Jerry DePoto's pulled things out with trades before, but it's going to be difficult. That trade deadline day is Tuesday, August 1st at 3 p.m. Pacific time. The Mariners play later the day at 6 o'clock against the Red Sox here at T-Mobile Park. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get anything done. But it's the Mariners are in a tough situation, and they don't really have themselves to blame, whether that be the moves that were made in the offseason or how bad this offense is in terms of consistency. I talked about it before we had the hiatus, that any sort of change that's going to be made with this Mariners offense is going to be internal. It's going to have to be internal. And it in the most beautifully Mariners way possible, it's been inconsistent, the change that we've seen. So that's that. That's that with this past week of games. We'll look over here at injury-related news and roster moves. On the 16th, the team reinstated right-handed pitcher Bryce Miller from the 15-day injured list with a right middle finger blister. As a resulting move, the team optioned right-handed pitcher Matt Festa to AAA Tacoma with the Rainiers in order to make up that roster spot. On the 19th, the team selected right-handed pitcher Prelander Baroa, Devin Sweet from the Arkansas Travelers. Baroa is exciting. He's got high velocity kind of guy. He's the Mariners' 13th ranked prospect by MLB.com. He was somebody that some were really excited about this spring training. But Devin Sweet, who I mentioned, and we'll go back to this photo by Sage here, so we can tell this story. When Sweet appeared in his MLB debut back on July 19th, he became the first NC Central product in American/National League history and the second in Major League history, joining Bun Hayes, who appeared back in 62 games with 39 starts in the Negro Leagues from 1928 to 35. So some history there with Devin Sweet, and that was really cool to see. Just unfortunate that, it kind of had to be rushed because of things like injuries there, needing to keep the bullpen fresh. But we'll continue on with the options that day on July 19th. As a resulting move to bringing up Prelander and Devin, the Mariners optioned right-handed pitcher Ty Adcock and Isaiah Campbell to the AA Arkansas Travelers. The big news out of them, one of the big pieces of news out of the Mariners this past week was that on July 20th, it was announced that left fielder Jared Kelenic, who's pictured here in this photo by Live Lions, was placed on the 10-day injured list with a left foot fracture. He fractured his foot kicking a water cooler after striking out in the 9th inning of a loss to the Twins on July 19th. That's what I mentioned, the Twins and the Mariners. There was an opportunity there to potentially get a win. So, people had a lot of thoughts about this, and that's fine. Social media, people are going to have thoughts. In the real world, people are going to have thoughts. Even I know that some of the folks who work in sports journalism, they get letters from fans who have thoughts that go to their respective newspaper offices. So I want to say this about Jared Kelenic and this injury here, because it's very difficult, obviously, to process for him. Especially, I don't really care how the negative folks feel. Jared has a lot of heart. He's always had a lot of heart in what he does, and that's obvious. People talk about his attitude and his emotions. Yes. That's been a big topic of discussion since he got called up to the major league level. But as someone who is at most to all of these Mariners home games and covers this team consistently, as it's what we're doing here, Jared's been a lot better this season about his emotions and things like that and keeping them in control. He's been a lot better about it. He's obviously an intense guy when it comes to that and how competitive that he is, but he's been a lot better about controlling it. So when I wake up and I find this news out and I see all these social media reactions calling him an idiot and calling him include bad words, I think it's stupid. Quite honestly, to judge somebody on that one instance when for the large part of this season, not only has he been a lot better about his emotions, he's been one of the most valuable Mariners in total. He's second in WRC plus, which is a big offensive stat for those who are not aware. On the offensive side of the ball, yes, he's kind of struggled since having that hot start, but he has been a much better player in terms of off the field and how he controls his emotions and as a teammate, let alone at the plate or in the outfield. He's also third on the team in WAR behind George Kirby and JP Crawford, who leads the team. So in terms of value, this is big, and yes, he's 23. Well, I think he's 24 now, 24 years old. So he hasn't hit his baseball prime yet. And yes, he is young. And yes, it's a mistake. It's something that he openly admitted. But I think that it's foolish to sit here and just criticize the guy, when it's obvious that he's been not only a major factor on this Mariners team, he's going to be a major factor for years to come. And I think the criticism is a bit annoying, because if you had really improved on an area in your life and you have one mistake and slip up and it's a mistake that gets amplified, how would you like it if you just got criticized to no end? So I think it's ridiculous, and that's my take on the whole Jared Kelenic situation with injuries and such related to that. So we go over here to team-related news outside of the injury here. On the 20th of July, the team recalled outfielder Cade Marlowe as a result to the Jared Kelenic injury. Marlowe started in left field the day of his call-up, was batting 255 batting average with 52 runs scored, 13 doubles, 6 triples, 1 homer, 47 RBIs, and 25 stolen bases with 32 walks, while reaching base at a 332 clip and slugging 461 with a 793 OPS in 63 games with the Tacoma Rainiers this season. Since June 16th, he's hit, well, at the time of this call-up, he had hit safely in 22 of the last 24 games with a 313 batting average with 4 doubles, 7 homers, 17 RBIs, 17 walks, and 14 stolen bases with a 1.020 OPS during that span. So it was really cool to see Cade Marlowe make his MLB debut. I know he's somebody that some folks had wanted to see at the big league level, especially with the way that the offense has struggled. But I felt that he wasn't ready yet just because the PCL wasn't necessarily the best situation for hitters at the time, just because there's not necessarily a lot of top pitching talent. 1 second. Got some important stuff going on. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Okay. It's actually, long story short, I'll say it on the show. Our Twitter got suspended. We're not sure why, so we're working the best I can through that. It's also why I have been running our social tab here to follow us on other socials, whether that be Instagram, Facebook, if you so wish, Threads and such. And obviously our YouTube remains active. Well, I'll also put up our website here where you can see all the content that we're doing as well, in addition to the Converge channels. So that's what's that. I've got people who are helping me right now, and I'm like, I'm on the show. So we're trying to run it, but that's what's going on. I apologize for the delayed break. But really cool to see Cade Marlowe make his MLB debut, similar to Sweet and Prelander, and Isaiah Campbell as well. Probably a little quicker than they would have liked or are necessarily ready for, but sometimes, trial by fire helps people out and helps them grow into greater players. So, excuse me, we're going to look here ahead at the upcoming situation for the Mariners, their upcoming road trip that will lead right into the trade deadline. The Mariners sit at a 50-win, 49-loss record, 4th in the American League West. Looking ahead, they will be facing off against these Twins again that they just played in a 4-game series, starting tonight at 4:40 p.m. Pacific time, July 24th at the Twins. Tomorrow's game, well, all of these games are actually at 4:40 p.m. July 24th, 25th, and 26th are all 4:40 p.m. starts over there at Target Field. We look over here to the next series, which is the Diamondback series. Seattle will go down to Arizona and battle the Diamondbacks for the first time this year, as well as Seattle native Corbin Carroll, who is a Rookie of the Year candidate, will probably win Rookie of the Year and has been in the MVP conversation as well. So the first game of that series is July 28th at 6:40 p.m. Pacific time. July 29th is a 5:10 p.m. Pacific time start, with July 30th to round out the series against the Diamondbacks down in Arizona, and the road trip is a 1:10 Pacific time start. Very quickly, since I'm trying to deal with this Twitter situation, we're going to go to a short break here and look back at the reconciliation tour. So just going to give it a quick break so I can deal with that. We'll be right back with the Storm segment of the show.
Baseball is a beautiful game, especially when played in community. Earlier this summer, Baseball Beyond Borders took a powerful, eye-opening journey through the heart of the South, which included baseball, civil rights, and reconciliation. Our Young Kings hosted a baseball clinic at Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi, and hit the road to Montgomery, Alabama by way of the historic Edmund Pettus Bridge to visit the Equal Justice Initiative Museum and Memorial. all in an effort to ground our kings in their history and find serenity in the sport they love to preserve the cultural legacy. Join Baseball Beyond Borders on September 27th for the premiere of our film, Reconciliation Tour, at T-Mobile Park's Ellis Pavilion from 3 to 5 p.m. Hear from those on the front line as well as special guests as we elevate our promise to bring healing through play. For tickets or to donate, visit baseballbeyond.org or check our social media platforms.
It's always really cool to see, the reconciliation tour, not only just what was put together itself by Converge, but also that trailer, and then to be there for the HBCU Swingman Classic. And I know that we're planning to do a sort of follow-up on some of the players from the roster that were there for that event, because it's really cool. The All-Star Week for MLB will be done in Texas next year with the Rangers and in Arlington. And I know that event should just grow and grow as it actually gets closer in terms of geography to the HBCU. So regardless, we move over here to our Seattle Storm, where the things get tough. They were tough entering the All-Star break for the Storm, going on that road trip in July. And since the second half has started, things have not quite changed in terms of their fortune. So they began the second half with a matchup at home against the Las Vegas Aces, which arguably the best team in the league. Not arguably, I think they are the best team in the league. Liberty are still figuring their situation out. But we look here to the this game. Guard Jewel Lloyd was our player of the game. And this is tough because Jewel was still able to get 12 points in this game. She had 6 rebounds and 6 assists. And because of that versatility and being able to get the rebounds and get the assists, make that impact off of the scoreboard, Jewel's efficiency wasn't great. Now we look here at the our photo of the game by Anthony May. You can see Chelsea Grace going up here, trying to get in the layup. We've got Jewel Lloyd and Dulcie Fankam-Mengiadu trying to block it. A little thing, I think I should wait till after we get to our discussion, because it happened in the Chicago game too. So they lost that one, as you can see here, 63-79, which is one of the lower point totals that the Aces have put out this year in general. So that's big. That's really big. We go over here to July 22nd, the second game they played this past week, both of them being at home at Climate Pledge Arena, and the Storm would lose that one 75-90. So you go from holding the best team in the league to one of their lowest point turnouts to giving up 90 points to the Sky. The Storm really struggled on the boards in this game. It's something that they've I talk about the Mariners hitting and their consistency there. They've struggled with all season long. It was the same thing here. I mean, in the first half, the Sky were really able to crash the boards and dominate that aspect of the game, get second chances, and the Storm really didn't have an answer. Once again, our player of the game, Jewel Lloyd, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Again, that versatility and being able to add in other parts of the statistics is why I went with Jewel there. You can see our photo of the game here by Liz Wolter. Not Liz. Liz is not in the photo. Jewel Lloyd going up against Courtney Williams there, trying to get a bucket. This one was tough. Yeah, I mean, just being dominated on the boards, it's something that the Storm have not been able to fix all year long. I go to our player of the week, and now I know I just went with Jewel Lloyd for player of the game in both of those games, but Ezzie Magbagor has been more efficient as Seattle's second scorer over the past 2 games. Ezzie's had 13 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 1 assist, and 1 steal per game, and 1.5 blocks per game. Now, we look at Jewel Lloyd in those games, it's obviously, as you can see here, I didn't directly say it yet, but the Storm are on a 9-game losing streak. We're getting to, historical sort of feats here, which isn't great. I don't like to see that. But it's tough because I know that we talked about this at the beginning of the year. I wanted to have a hot take and say that maybe the Storm could put it together and be this ragtag team that gets to the playoffs. That's highly unlikely. They've only won 4 games. But I also did say, hey, you're going to want to look at the growth of the individual players in this aspect. Dulcie Fankam-Mengiadu over the course of the road trip was huge as a starter for the Storm and is really big on the boards. But at the end of the day, you're going to need more on the boards from the entirety of the team itself, not just one player. Jewell Loyd has been an MVP candidate through the entirety of the season. And while the Storm haven't been winning, I feel like she should be considered for that. Which is tough. We'll get to what Jewell did and the general All-Star week here in a minute. But, yes, with Jewell. So in that Aces game, Las Vegas was playing a lot of a box and one defense. Now, if you don't know what that is, which I didn't know what it was actually before this game, I have to admit, it's basically what the definition of a box and one defense is when you take, it's called a junk defense, that's used against teams with one great offensive player surrounded by players of quote unquote less offensive talent. So there's a mix of what it means by junk is there's a bit of man-to-man defense and zone defense mixed in there. So there's one player who's a chaser who basically follows that great player around for the entirety of the game, which would be Jewell Loyd. So you take that and it frustrates. It's supposed to frustrate that great offensive player and put an emphasis on the other offensive players around that one great player to pick up the slack effectively. And outside of Ezi Magbagor and a couple other players here and there at times, Sammy Whitcomb's been solid off the bench for a good amount of the season. Outside of that, Seattle hasn't gotten a lot of scoring, and it really exposed that. And especially with the talent level that the Aces have, it's going to kind of emphasize that. And we saw that in this game. 63 points is not a good offensive total to put out in any basketball game, really, that's full length. And then that Sky game as well, outside of dominating on the boards, I mean, Jewell Loyd was relatively ineffective once again. So, I mean, the emphasis for the Storm to find more scoring is big. We look at the starting lineup. Ivana Dojkic's speed has been great. She's been able to provide a burst of offense. She's able to stretch that floor a little bit, not only with her passing as the point guard, but she's well beyond the arc. Jewell Loyd, we know what kind of scorer that she can be. Gabby Williams, back with the team now after the uncertainty of not having her. Her offensive skill set's always kind of been looking to grow and has been limited, but she is able to distribute the ball well. So, that's another thing to watch in terms of individual effort, is watching Gabby Williams grow offensively. Dulcie's solid in the paint, and that she's kind of a true paint player. Ezi has been able to, as I talked about, be the second option for the Storm team. Can stretch the floor a little bit, but that's an aspect of her game that's growing as well. So as often as the term young team is put on this Storm roster, it's true. There are a lot of players that are working on things that are not necessarily rounded out products, and that's okay. They don't need to win it all this year. It's not like last year where it was Sue Bird last season. I think that's kind of the point, and I think these learning experiences should only make them better. And linear growth isn't linear. That's the thing. Unfortunately, every time this Storm team goes out there, they're not going to be able to make this big light bulb over their head, and they're going to be able to adjust. The Storm team throughout the course of the season will plug one hole and another one will open. They'll do better on the boards, but they'll do horrible in fast break. They'll do better on the fast break, but then their switching will be bad that game. So you see what I mean? That's kind of what's happened all season long. They haven't put all of the puzzle pieces together. They'll put one section together, and then in doing so, one of the other sections will be wiped away. So it is frustrating to see that, right? Because it's like, why are these same issues happening? But I try to leave that grain of salt in my mind, knowing that these are issues that, they obviously know are taking place. And these should be learning experiences for the Storm players going forward. So that's my piece on it. I'm trying to see if we could get the statistics on just how bad the Storm team has been. They've lost their last 9 games. Trying to see. Nope, didn't list it. Okay. We'll look over to team-related news here. Over the past week, we did have the All-Star break. I talked about it being the second half now. But since we've been gone, not the song, 3 Storm players participated in the All-Star festivities in the WNBA. So first, on July 14th, guard and UW alum Sammy Whitcomb came in second place in this year's WNBA three-point contest. She finished with 28 points in round 1 and 22 in round 2. So I think in a normal three-point contest, Sammy would have done pretty good. The only problem is she ran into New York Liberty point guard Sabrina Ionescu, who only missed 2 of her shots in the final round and tallied a 37 points out of a possible 40, which is not only a WNBA record, but it's also a NBA record as well, beating out Steph Curry's best mark in the NBA, which is incredible to see, really. So just tough that Sammy ran into that in her 3-point contest. It's the second time, that Sammy has ever participated in the 3-point contest, doing so last year as a member of the Liberty. We move over here to July 15th, which was the actual All-Star game itself. If you're not aware, you haven't been following us on the socials, which again, I will put down here as we're dealing with. Apparently, we got unsuspended. I'm on the air right now, so I don't like looking at my phone, but I'm getting all these people are contacting me, which I dearly appreciate. But I apparently we're fine. So I don't know. Just focus on the other socials that you see on the bottom of your screen here. But on July 15th, Jewel Lloyd was named the All-Star Game MVP. She scored 31 points in this game and made 10 3-pointers. Both are WNBA All-Star Game records. So Jewel makes some history, as she has continued to do all season long as a member of the Storm, and takes home the hardware. Just unfortunate that the first games out of the gate after winning that MVP award have not been so stellar. Also, the other All-Star in this game for the Storm, Ezzy Magbagor, coming off the bench, tallied 2 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists in her first ever All-Star game. So nice to see Ezzy get that experience, and the fact that she's only going to grow and grow and continue to get better. So I'm just going to keep that running there, honestly. It's kind of annoying. So the Storm now, after this sort of little 2-game homestand out of the All-Star break, will head out on a 3-game road trip that's going to be tough. And it starts tough. They sit at a 4 wins, 18 loss record, which is good for dead last in the league and dead last in the Western Conference. Looking ahead, their next game is on Tuesday, tomorrow, July 25th at the New York Liberty out in Brooklyn, with a 4 p.m. Pacific time tip-off. That game will be on ESPN3. And then we go over here to July 28th. The Storm will get a rematch against that Chicago Sky team. That game will have a tip-off time of 5 p.m. Pacific time, as the Storm are looking to do better on the boards against the Sky team. A Sky team that also hasn't really been that great either necessarily, but I'm not like the Storm or this juggernaut of a team either. That game will be on Ion, Ion. And then the last game of the road trip, July 30th on Sunday, is at the Indiana Fever, who are arguably the second worst team in the league. That game will tip off at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That'll be on ESPN3 and Amazon Prime Video if you are in the state of Washington. So 3-game road trip. You're obviously looking at the Storm. The big thing I'd like to see improved on over the course of this past week is the rebounding, but that's been an issue that this Storm team has needed to correct all year, and they haven't been able to do so. So I won't get my hopes too high, but we'll see. Speaking of not getting our hopes too high, our Sounders, after starting off really, really hot in the beginning of the season, have just kind of been mediocre, and as the children say, mid, since the month of May started, really. And they've entered a new competition with the Leagues Cup here this past weekend, and will take place over the next few games that they're playing. So they've got a little bit of a break in terms of MLS regular season play, and their fortunes in Leagues Cup play haven't been great to start off. So their first match that we're going to look at, July 15th versus FC Dallas here at home. This game was kind of viewed by some as a must-win situation, considering the fact that we're getting closer and closer to the MLS playoffs, and seating is going to be huge. Obviously, you'd like for people to come into your home building. You don't necessarily want to go on the road in the playoffs. I mean, if you're a good road team, then sure. But the Sounders got the lead in this match, and then right before halftime, they gave up a sloppy, just kind of a lackadaisical goal to FC Dallas, letting a run in just clear through the middle of their defensive line. And no one scored in that second half. So our player of the match, defender Nuhu, we look to this photo of the match here by Brian Saldana, a 7.5 match rating and 89% passing percentage, 13 passes into the final third, 1 clearance, and 2 interceptions on the match there. So nice defensive effort by Nu, who wasn't actually responsible for the reason that defender got in. It was the two center backs, Yamar, and I believe it was Jackson Reagan in the back there as well, who just came up into the play for some reason, which normally center backs don't do. And FC Dallas was able to get in behind. Perfect ball in for the header, and just like that, this match was tied. So we go from that disappointment to over to the Leagues Cup here, where the Sounders begin their campaign in the Leagues Cup, trying to win new hardware. They've said that they're going to put their all into this and try to bring more trophies back to the club. And if this match was any indication on how things are going to go, it doesn't look great. The Sounders would lose this one on Saturday on July 22nd at Real Salt Lake 0-3. As you know, with shutouts like this, we don't have a player of the match. It was just horrid. All of those goals actually came in the second half for RSL. So the first half looked fine, but the Sounders were not able to generate chances hardly at all in this match here. As we go to this one, they only had 7 shots. None of them really were able to threaten much at all, really. RSL took 19 shots, which if you're not really a big soccer person and you're just waiting for me to get to the next segment, that's a lot. That's not great to give up. We go down to the stats. Yeah. Possession, I mean, I don't really ever take too much stock into possession. But RSL had 19 shots and 2 big chances and somehow missed both of them. So this means that RSL really kind of scored 3 times on goals that they arguably shouldn't have. If we try to find the expected goals here, we go to all statistics. Yeah, they had 8 shots on target. The Sounders had 1. That's horrible. Yeah, I mean, so we look here to this, and that FC Dallas one, I don't necessarily think that you could consider it must win, sure, but there's still some matches to be played prior to the end of the MLS regular season. If you're going to argue about seeding, then the ones in May and June should have been must win, because the Sounders had a great opportunity to build their lead atop the Western Conference that they were able to keep for so long because of how good they did in the beginning of the season. And they didn't do that. You know, in the Leagues Cup now, new tournament, kind of refresh. You're mostly healthy. And then you're not, as we do have some injury-related news. But you put up that sort of performance, and now you're going to play a Monterrey side in your next match of this tournament, who is listed as one of the best teams in this tournament. So Seattle also has not won in RSL in 10 years. Not good. So anyway, we move over to injury-related news here on the 22nd. At halftime of this match, midfielder Christian Roldan, as you can see here in this photo by Brian Saldana, was taken out of the game at halftime in concussion protocol, which is horrible considering that Christian missed a bunch of action already this season due to a concussion that he suffered earlier in the year. So not good. You're losing one of the leaders of this team. Excuse me, you're losing one of the best midfielders on this team. For who knows how long, considering that we didn't know for certain how long that Christian would be out until he finally came back in the doubleheader match against the Timbers here in Seattle. So it's not great. And then also the reason the Sounders were also without Nico Ladero in this match on the 22nd against Real Salt Lake, as he stayed in Seattle due to feeling some right adductor pain late in the week. The move to keep him there was mainly precautionary, and the injury itself is not expected to be long-term. So you've got let's actually look here. Instead of me just guessing, let's look at how much that these Sounders have to do in terms of, you know, what's going on before we get to the playoffs. Yeah, their last match of the regular season is September 20th. You know, after Monterrey, their next match is August 20th versus Atlanta United. You get Minnesota, Austin, Portland, Dallas, Colorado. Something's got to change internally. I know that after the RSL loss, head coach Brian Schmetzer said that we'll see a different team on Sunday against Monterrey. I don't know if that'll be the case necessarily. because I know after some losses at home here and disappointing ones, Brian Schmetzer has said that the team is motivated to get better, and yet we still sit here kind of cluttering along. Things are getting serious. This Leagues Cup, I'm not too concerned about the Leagues Cup. Yes, I know you want to win every trophy and be competitive, but I'm more focused on the MLS playoffs right now after you broke your streak of making them every year last season. And now technically you should be safe from missing out on them entirely. I don't know if that's going to be the case considering how you've been lately, So it's a big opportunity here. You're going to have to turn it around. You'd like to get started and use this next match against Monterrey to kind of bring yourself back into the thick of things. But if we're going by how trends have been, it's no good. It's no good. We look ahead here to the next match that the Sounders play July 30th versus Monterrey. It's a 6 p.m. Pacific time start here at Lumen Field in the city of Seattle. Monterrey has been listed as one of the best teams and best clubs in this tournament. So it's not going to be exactly a pushover, big opportunity for the Sounders to rebound. No, they're going to have to come for this ready to battle and really looking to turn things around. If we want to know the standings for the Sounders in terms of how they've been doing in MLS regular season play, they ended their regular season and gone into the Leagues Cup here with a 10-win, 8-loss, 6-draw record, good for 36 points, and 4th in the Western Conference, 10th in the league overall. Safe to say that any hope of Supporters Shield is done and cooked. So we get over here to Kraken related news, and one nice big shiny piece of news for you when it comes to our Kraken. On the 21st, the team signed defenseman Vince Dunn to a 4-year, $7.35 million AAV deal. Dunn, at 26 years old, will be signed with the Kraken through his year 30 season, which is going to largely perceived as the prime years of his career. Dunn won the Pete Muldoon Award as the Kraken's most valuable player after finishing the 2022-23 season with 64 points, 14 goals, 50 assists, and 81 regular season games, setting career highs in nearly every offensive category, whether that be goals, assists, points per game, even strength goals, even strength points, and power play points as well. His 50 assists led the Kraken and ranked second on Seattle's roster in even strength points and power play points. He was tied there. Dunn finished the season this past year ranking 10th amongst all NHL defensemen in goals, which he was tied for, assists and points. He ranked second among NHL blue liners in both even strength goals and even strength points. He had 7 points, 1 goal, and 6 assists in 14 playoff games with the Kraken, matching his postseason career high in assists. So very big news there for the Kraken to be able to lock up Dunn. That was kind of their top priority, so to say, when it came to this offseason. We'll look a little bit here into the deal for Dunn, which is interesting because he signed this big deal. It's very important. It's a value of $29,400,000. It's the largest AAV that Ron Francis has given out to a player in his career as a general manager. That dates back to his time with the Carolina Hurricanes, and the largest cap percentage that he's given away in a contract at 8.8% of the team salary cap. So yes, the $7,350,000 AAV. That's the AAV if you were to split it that way. But the base salary, we're going to go down it for year one. Year one base salary is $9 million. Year two is $8 million. And then year three, $7 million. And then the last year, 2026-27, is a $5,400,000. Now, something that's interesting is that next year, Vince Dunn has a full no trade clause. There are no signing bonuses as well throughout this course of this deal. He has a full no trade clause next year. And then the last 2 years of the deal, he has a medium. No trade clause where he can't be traded to 16 teams, which is very interesting. But so that deal is all said and done. Glad to see that all finished up. And I know that there was some talk about this being an overpay, but one, taking into account that the salary cap will go up in the next 3 years in the NHL is mitigates that a little bit. And two, the fact that this was less than was actually predicted, and the fact and how valuable Dunn is in terms of his offensive production as a defender, because I know there's a lot of look at his offense, but his defensive numbers were great too, and his underlying numbers. Thank you, Allison Lucan. And how valuable he is to that first defensive pairing with Adam Larson. I think it's a great deal. Keeps him through his prime, and if he's able to, put up great numbers again, it sets him up for another big payday when he turns 30. So, anyway, we move over here to the OL Reign, and while they are also in a little bit of a break, kind of like the Sounders, they're in it for different reasons. The FIFA Women's World Cup is underway. There are more matches tonight. My Philippines play tonight at 10:30 p.m., so that'll be great. I have to stay up longer. But the Reign have an NWSL record 8 players in the World Cup, which is the most of any club in the entire league. That was 7 before July 17th, when midfielder Angelina was named to the Brazil Women's National Team World Cup roster as an injury replacement player. So the Brazil roster had been set, but the World Cup teams can make an injury replacement if a player goes down with an injury. They can make that swap, and Angelina joins the roster there. Brazil played their first match of the World Cup last night. Last night, more like early morning. It started at 4:00 in the morning here, Pacific time, and Angelina did not see any action. So unfortunate there, but we look at it here in this manner here. Jordan Huitema and Quinn both started for Team Canada in their first match of the World Cup. Quinn was actually named as the player of the match for Canada's draw there with Nigeria. Canada had a great chance to go ahead there with a penalty kick by Christine Sinclair, but it was stopped by the Nigeria goalkeeper. It was huge, great stop. But so Canada draw in that one. And then in Team USA's start, both Megan Rapinoe, Megan Rapinoe, Rose Lavelle, and Sofia Huerta all got some minutes in the USA's win over Vietnam, a 3-0 win to get things started for them. Their next match is on Wednesday. So very cool to see all of these Reign players taking part in it, but it does mean that the team is without a lot of talent on the regular season side of things, which gets kicked back off on July 28th. So the Reign will get back into action as the World Cup continues on July 28th. This is a Challenge Cup match, as you can see by the logo on the right there. July 28th, hosting the San Diego Wave FC, who are also hurt by the World Cup here, as they're without Alex Morgan. Alex Morgan is the only player for San Diego to have scored against the Reign in the franchise's existence. So, well, knock on wood. We'll see about that. The Reign sit at a 7-win, 5-loss, 3-draw record on the NWSL regular season to this point, which is 4th in the league table with 24 points. But we will mention, since this is a Challenge Cup match, the Reign sit at 1st in the West, the Western Division of the Challenge Cup, with 10 points. And they've got a comfortable lead up there, but they'd like to continue to grow it because the prize pool money, if the Reign win the Challenge Cup, has increased every year. So hoping for that. We will wrap up the show here. I know that normally we'll start of the week, but with the way that things have gone on, it's been a lot, dealing with the Twitter thing. I mean, we'll check on air here. We'll see if it's there. Oh, it's not Twitter anymore. It's X. We might be back, folks. We might be back. You're seeing this on camera, and it says, we might be back. Anyway, I don't know, man. It's been a lot. It's, truth be told, since All-Star Week, it started on Thursday of that day because we had the HBC Swingman Classic on Thursday at UW, which Cuddy was at. Everybody appreciate Cuddy behind the camera for making me look somewhat okay here in my face and this pale look. Started on Thursday. And even then, the preparation was before that. We had the takeover on Friday before the Swingman, which was really cool, on Pier 62, I believe it was. Then you go through all of All-Star Week, which is a lot. 2 days off, which really wasn't 2 days off because we then had a 10-game homestand right after that, and that just ended yesterday. So it's been a lot. So I appreciate, you that tuned in today, and all the folks on Twitter who supported it, because I tweeted that out at I woke up at 6 o'clock and tweeted out at 7 o'clock as I was freaking out. And the support on my personal Twitter was huge, for that. If we look here at me tweeting it's up to 6,000 views, which I didn't expect. 15 retweets, 11 quote tweets, 39 likes. So much love, guys. I appreciate that. It's Twitter's its own discussion. We're not going to talk about it. I just want to say thank you, not only for supporting CSS, but all the coverage that we did here in Converge with All-Star Week, that we do with the Mariners, and with all our sports here in the city. We put a lot of effort into it, but we love this and we love what we do here. So anyway, I don't want to sit here and blabber at you, sit here and cry, but we'll put that up there. CSS website has all the ways that you can find us. So it's really easy, circlingseattlesports.com. We've got the domain, thank God. But anyway, that'll be it. We'll see you next Monday. We'll be in the month. Not yet. Next Monday is August 31st, July 31st. And the trade deadline will be the very next day in Major League Baseball. So we'll see. The Mariners have a big stretch here. The Storm are looking to snap their 9-game winning streak, which I really hope that they're able to do that, because things have been tough for them. But 9-game winning streak there. Losing streak. The Sounders have a big Leagues Cup match against Monterey here at home. The Kraken kind of continued their offseason. The Seahawks as well. The Reign will get back to regular season action as the Women's World Cup continues. Till I see you next week. Till I see you at the end of July. Take care of yourselves. Be well, and do whatever you can to have a great day. I appreciate you. Thank you.